Hey guys, Trevor with Shadow Systems, Tactical Tuesday. We have a special guest today. This is Quinn Cunningham. Quinn is one of our competitive shooters. He's been with Shadow representing our brand at matches since 2018. Quinn's a talented guy. Welcome to Technical Tuesday.
Thank you. It's like a pilgrimage to the factory. This
He's
is
made
awesome.
his pilgrimage to visit us here in Texas. So Quinn is a Grand Master Production shooter. He is a Masterclass Carry Optics shooter. He's shot matches all over the country. He knows a lot about the sport. I have also shot matches quite a bit in my past, and we thought this is a great opportunity for us to kind of help people who aren't really sure about it or who are nervous about it get started in competitive shooting. What gear do you need? What guns that we make work well, and so on, right? So I guess what piece of advice would you give someone, first of all, who's just wanting to get started in competitive shooting?
The very first piece of advice I can give is put the ego away and just go do it. You're not going to do well your first match. You're going to get smashed by people, but that's okay. It's just going to make you better.
Exactly. And also, don't worry that it's like you're going to go with a whole bunch of like professional shooters and look stupid or something. Right. No, these are most of these clubs are just guys who are out there on the weekend having a good time. They have day jobs. I mean, it's only at the real big matches that you see like the big dog,
right?
Like sponsored shooters come out. So don't think that you're gonna go be racing Mario Andretti or something your first day. You're just gonna show up and you're gonna shoot a gun and have a good time, right?
Have fun. Don't DQ.
Yeah, don't disqualify yourself.
That's it.
Yeah, basically be safe and have fun. That's what you're saying, right? Okay, cool. So that's it. As far as finding a club and figuring that out, you can Google that. The web resources are great now. I want to talk, though, about what you should be searching for when you're trying to find the sport, okay, and how to start getting involved in shooting. We're going to talk about two kinds of pistol shooting, competitive pistol shooting. There's also 3-gun, there's other varieties of competitive pistol shooting, but we're going to focus on pistol, and we're going to talk about USPSA and IDPA. Okay? So USPSA, United States Practical Shooting Association. What does the word practical mean there, Quinn?
It means running and gunning.
Yeah, basically practical means you're really good at hitting stuff fast. That's why it's practical. Okay, so they adopted that term way back when USPSA was first founded in the 70s. It was 1976. If you read Guns and Ammo magazine back in the day, at the end of Guns and Ammo magazine, there was a guy named Jeff Cooper, Colonel Cooper, who would write about sort of like combat experiences and how to think about the world and whatever. And Jeff Cooper was one of the founders of USPSA in the 70s. So the sport's got a long history. It's got 37,000 members. It's got 400 and something clubs across the country.
Right.
Lots of options, right?
Yep.
Okay. So what do you shoot in USPSA?
I shoot currently in Carry Optics division, and this is my DR920L. The DR920L is perfect for CO, Carry Optics. You have the slide mounted optic. Everything that I have is stock. This is totally a stock gun. Magazines, you can have up to, it's 140 millimeters, so you can put a magazine a magazine base plate on there to get more magazines, but you're limited to 140 millimeters.
Yeah, let's actually talk about that for a second. So in each of these sports, we're going to go through the different categories you can shoot in, okay? So you just mentioned Carry Optics. We'll talk about that first. That's probably the most popular one right now. And for what we think of as a modern defensive handgun with an optic on it, that's kind of the purpose of Carry Optics. Now, you mentioned magazines. So Carry Optics doesn't have magazine restrictions in terms of how many rounds you can load. As we get into this, you'll hear about other categories that have those restrictions. But in Carry Optics, you're limited to the overall length of the tube, which means that you're kind of limited to how many rounds you can get in there. It can't just go on forever. So if you shoot an extended base pack magazine, you're getting 22.
If you go to really light spring in there, you can get 23.
People tune their magazines really crazy to try to get more rounds and stuff, but Carry Optics, you're probably using an MR, a DR, an XR. Probably the best Carry Optics gun we make is the DRL, okay?
Yeah, it is.
Right? So DRL with an optic of choice on it and an extended magazine, 22 rounds or whatever, and you can use the optics in that category, Carry Optics.
Yep.
Okay, so that's where most people who carry shadow guns are probably going to go if they're shooting USPSA, wouldn't you say?
Right.
All right. Tell us about gear, though.
So for gear at USPSA, typically you would have a rig like this where you have a holster, you have a rigid belt with an inner belt, and you have magazine pouches.
But you definitely need that to get started, right?
No, you don't. Don't go out and buy a whole bunch of crazy stuff. Just your carry holster and a magazine pouch. That's really all you need. Don't buy this until you're really into it and you know for certain that I want to go down this path.
And you'll go to these matches, and these people will want to help you out. They'll go to their, like, oh, here, try this out. Here, you need a better holster. I mean, it's a very positive environment. You're going to learn so much in that first match you go visit. A lot of times people will come and they won't even shoot.
Right.
They'll just want to watch and talk to people, and that's a good way to start too. But don't go buy a bunch of gear. I know so many people who are still, they're like 2 years into preparing for their first weekend match. No. It's like, well, I'm going to buy this and I got that and whatever. It's like not a gear thing, man. Nope. Just go shoot. I started out with my dad's GI 45 and 7-round magazines in like a leather holster or like one of those like Uncle Mike's ones that falls apart, the nylon one that collapses, right? That's how you start. Just go shoot, okay? Okay, so so carry optics, many rounds as you want, a red dot sight, what is this gun? DR920L,
the L.
DR, something like that. Right. All right. Production. Okay, last few times I've shot USPSA with a Shadow Systems pistol, I've shot production. Think of it as basically what Quinn described for carry optics, except iron sights and 10 rounds only.
Right.
That's probably the simplest way. So this class came around like in the 1990s. When they were trying to get away from some of the gear race stuff and they wanted to have a more simple, category so people could shoot just regular kind of guns. And at the time, optics weren't really a thing, so it was developed around just stock guns, Beretta 92s and Glocks and Smith & Wessons and whatever. And so a Shadow pistol without an optic loaded with 10 rounds is probably your ticket.
Take it out of the box, load it up and go.
Exactly.
Really.
So that's a Foundation Series XR.
XR's great.
Good.
Great.
DRL
great.
again.
DRL's great.
Yep. And the longer sight radius is nice for that category because you're iron sights only. So if you're an MR person, it's an MRL maybe. If you're a DR person, it's a DRL maybe. Right.
Right.
Okay. Cool. So that's production. Those are the two categories we're going to play the best in probably in USPSA. After that, there are other places you could shoot our guns for sure, but it definitely becomes more of a gear race against like $7,000 race guns, 1911s with a pound trigger pull and stuff like that.
Right.
So I shot limited for a long time back in the day when I shot 1911s, and so limited category is you have a power factor you're supposed to hit, so you get more points if you shoot a 40 or a 45. If you're shooting a 9 and you hit outside the A zone, like you hit over here, you're gonna get less points. If you hit A zones, then it's the same as the bigger calibers. That's an interesting element of it. But yeah, you could shoot in limited, and you can put on whatever kind of stuff you want, and crazy triggers and sights, and magwells and whatever, but no optics, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then open, right? Have you shot a DRP in open?
Yes, I have a DRP that I've made into an open gun.
Okay.
And it shoots 9 major. And it's a Rockstar.
Oh, good. Okay.
So I've got the frame-mounted optic, the magazine well, shooting 9 major, and that thing rails.
Right, and you've used aftermarket parts from other manufacturers and all kinds of stuff to build that gun out, right?
Not really. Not really. The internals are all stock.
I thought you said you had a frame-mounted optic mount, though.
Yes. Other
than that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But internally, same gun. Comes from the factory.
Got it. So so the big thing about open category is optics and comps. That's the biggest thing. So that'll be the only USPSA category where you can run a comp. And again, you're up against crazy guns, all kinds of stuff on them. A DRP, as Quinn just told us, can be fine. A lot of people will shoot 9mm major in that category, which is basically a way overloaded 9mm. You can buy 9mm major. We have shot guns with 9mm major. You're using it. It's fine, but it's definitely like overpressure. And I mean, I can't sit here and say that you should do that, okay? But that's what some people do in 9mm with a DRP, right?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. That was USPSA. USPSA was kind of the granddaddy. It's where there's a lot of gaming. And in the 90s, a group got together and said, we want it to be more tactical. And they came up with
IDPA.
the International Defensive Pistol Association. Describe an IDPA match compared to USPSA match.
There's going to be more tactics involved. You're going to typically have a cover garment, something concealed. You have to utilize cover. You have to utilize like tactical reloads and things like that, reloading behind cover.
Yeah, that's the big difference. So the concept was USPSA is like you're going to freaking run out into the middle of the street high noon and just
John Wick.
It's fast, right? But they're not really thinking about using cover and stuff like that. In the IDPA world, they want to encourage those, like tactical use of the firearm. So it tends to be a little slower. It tends to be a little more rule intensive. And it tends to be lower round count usually.
And biased towards accuracy.
And it is biased towards accuracy. That's also true. USPSA, you would say, when you think about how hard you're going to push the accelerator, USPSA, you're probably biased a little more towards speed. Whereas with IDPA, if you throw a shot off a target, it's a pretty big, it's a pretty big hit. Yeah. It's a pretty big hit. So, I guess it's just a little more about discipline and tactics. It's a little slower. It's a good place to start, though.
It's
right?
That's where I started. That's where a lot of people start.
A lot of people will start there just because it's in some ways maybe a little less intimidating. It's not as much crazy stuff going on in the stages and everything like that. Okay, so let's go through the IDPA categories because we actually play pretty well in a lot of those. Stock service pistol would be the first one. That's pretty obvious. It's what it sounds like, so it's no optics. You cannot put a magwell on the gun. Yep, there's a stock service pistol option. XR 920 would be a good one. MR 920 would be a good one. DRL would be fine.
Yeah, and I think the longer slides are probably the most popular.
Yeah, longer slides are more popular because of the sight radius. 10 rounds and no real modifications to the gun.
Right.
You can't, like, if you wanted to stipple more or whatever, you can't really do that in stock service pistol. Right. Okay. Then we have the
enhanced service pistol.
Enhanced service pistol. Yeah. So walk through that.
So that's a little bit more lenient on modifications, magazine wells, stippling, external modifications, and things like that.
Yeah, so if you want to run your magazine well on your Shadow Systems pistol in IDPA, you can't do it in stock. You'd have to be in ESP or one of the other categories that we're going to go over. Now, both of those categories, in fact, all IDPA categories have magazine loading restrictions. Mm-hmm. So at the most, it's 10+1, and in some of the other categories, it's less. People have mixed emotions about that. I mean,
it's America.
Yeah, I mean, it's America. We feel like we should put more bullets in the gun.
Yes.
But I will say one advantage for IDPA is it forces you to shoot accurately because your rounds matter. You learn to do more reloads. So it does also kind of improve your handling and skills.
And, it puts you on the same playing field if your firearm does not have more capacity.
Yes.
Versus Carl.
Right.
Who has.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So basically, who is Carl?
Some dude I just made up.
I made him up.
You just made him up.
All right, I didn't know
Carl
if I
with
should.
a K.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. You just have to be more disciplined in IDPA, make your shots count, and that's 10 round only. Okay, so stock service pistol, no magwell, you can think of it that way, MR, DR, XR. Enhanced service pistol, same guns. Now we're going to add a magwell. Maybe you want to put some stipple it some more or something, or modify your gun more. So then there were some complaints that was becoming too much of a gear race because the guns were like big long slide guns. Are you really going to carry that? So they came up with compact carry pistol, which they basically limited to a 4-inch barrel approximately. So it's really intended for like an MR size gun.
Right.
And it can be thought of as the enhanced service pistol where you can put the magwell and stuff on, but limited to barrel length.
Right. It's more of something you would actually carry every day.
I think if I was going to go shoot an MR in IDPA, I would probably want to jump into the compact carry pistol category.
Yep.
Yeah. And then the last one where we play pretty well is, there's carry optics too. They have carry optics too.
They do.
Yeah. So talk through what that one is.
It's an enhanced service pistol with an optic.
Yeah.
So boom.
Yeah, probably that same gun.
Yep.
It's a nice that if you have a carry optics gun for USPSA, it's going to go right into carry optics for, there might be some minor differences, but it's generally true.
10+1.
10+1. Yeah. That's a big one. Okay, then we have the backup gun category. Right. Yeah. So backup gun is kind of hilarious. I think it's cool. I like it. I've never done it, but you can shoot at 380. So the caliber starts at 380. Revolvers, like 5-shot revolvers are in there, and then the CR would be probably the winningest gun in backup category, I would think.
Right.
Because it's an easy to shoot subcompact. But 5+1.
5.
Yeah.
5+1.
Okay, I get it. I mean, these guns are a pain to reload. I'll say small guns, you pinch yourself and stuff a lot, so I don't know how I feel about that. But yes, 5+1 backup gun category. Okay. As far as size, I mentioned USPSA is the 30+ thousand members. IDPA is in the 20s, 20,000 something members, and there's still several hundred clubs around the country. So Google it, check it out. Gear for IDPA is you have to,
typical carry inside the waistband holster, outside the waistband holster. You need a belt, a magazine pouch.
And magazine pouch has got to be behind the hip, I think, and you got to have a covering. You got to have a
cover garment.
People have like a vest or whatever. You can use a shirt or a whatever fleece or whatever. So, okay. I know that's a long explanation, but I really want to get more people involved in the shooting sports. It is the best way to learn. I believe that through and through. I've seen people with a competitive shooting background excel in multiple areas, including in the tactical world. You're a good example. So go learn in a USPSA, IDPA match or whatever. Talk to people, be brave, be courageous. I know it's sometimes scary to start new things, especially when you might get trounced, but it's part of the deal.
Have fun with it. And the competitive shooting people are the best people on the planet. If you don't know what you're doing, you ask, and they will walk you through everything. If you don't have a certain piece of gear, they probably have it in their car.
Exactly right. Yeah. Exactly right. Okay, that's our intro to competitive shooting. We're going to probably do some stuff on the range too soon and do some videos together and talk more about it, but that's the intro. We'll see you next Tuesday.
God bless America.